What's going on, everyone? So I'm going to cover quite a few things in this video, but only in spurts, or just kind of in a broad reference, because I plan to release everything that I'm going to go over today in a very specific detail, basically every step, as in a big like course and ebook and physical book that you can buy on my website in time as I complete it all. So if anyone is interested in that, like the full everything I'm going over today in more detail, step by step, and then all the references and links and everything else that would be involved in all the stuff I'm going over today. Let me know in the comments, and if there's anything you want to know that I can add for the final product and all that. But today, I'm basically just covering uh, the step by step marketing and create your own comic book. And this is basically from super start to before you even start writing or doing any of the artwork, all the way to after the book has launched, and how do you continue to make sales even after the book has been released. So I'm covering the whole thing. All right. So if everybody is interested in that, stick around because here we go. And those who do not know who I am, you can check out everything I do at my website, hovencrow.com. I'm the managing director of Hove and Crow Entertainment. I'm the co-creator of two comic book series, both in the direct market in comic book shops that you can get right now. The first one was It Eats What Feeds It from Scout Comics. My current one that's ongoing is Liquid Kill. And I also am working on other projects that I keep wraps until, it's time to start going live. But until then, let's just jump right into it. So, basically, I talk about this stuff in the same way as I talk about producing films because I see it in the same way. So I talk about it in sort of the same concepts. There's what I call pre-production, there's what I call production, and then there's what I call post-production but pre-launch, and then there's what I call launch, and then post-launch. So there's essentially five things that I'm going over. Pre-production is like what you do before you even start uh, doing the artwork or actually like writing even the story. Production is what you do when you're actually in the process of creating the series or the book. Post production, but pre launch, is what you do after you finish the book, but before you actually launch or before the book goes live into shops or on Kickstarter or whatever. Launch is the day that your book goes live, available for sale, and that one day is so important in its own that it has its own subcategory. And then finally, post launch is what you do. You've now done everything. It's launched. What do you do after that to keep the momentum going? All right. So the things that I cover, these are essentially the very broad steps that go into pre-production. This is what you do before you even begin production of the comic. This is, you need to choose your genre, choosing your artist, choosing your budget, determining publishing options, and planning out potential revenue streams. So essentially, before you even write a story, this is all part of marketing, by the way, everybody. Marketing starts from the get-go, because before you even start writing, I know that a lot of people are just like, it comes from my head. Yes, it should come from, the ether that you brought it from, the muse, and then onto paper, all fully out of your head as your baby that you want to be perfect in your own realm. However, there are certain aspects that, like many writers, I'm sure you get tons of ideas all the time, which ones you actually start production on need to be refined. And as you refine them, there are certain elements that you want to refine very specifically, because when it comes to marketing, you'll want to know exactly how things will get subcategorized and then targeted whenever you eventually do ads or you start writing your log lines and all this stuff. And one of the big ones is you have to define the genre that you're writing in. And if you feel as if it crosses genres, that's fine. You still want to define your genre, okay? Choosing an artist is a whole battle in itself. okay? And part of your grand vision, if you are the artist, then like basically determining your style is very important. As I'll go in the later videos and in the full book, choosing your artist involves basically, are you wanting it to have an Eastern manga-esque style? Are you wanting it to have a very, uh, is it going to be black and white? Is it going to be very almost watercolor-ish? What is it that you're trying to do? Do you want it to just look like a generic everything else kind of thing? Choosing an artist is very important because you're essentially choosing style. Choosing the budget is also quite in depth because determining basically what you're wanting to do, which goes into planning out potential revenue streams, trying to see the ultimate end outcome that you're trying to do determines how much you're willing to spend on it. If you're just trying to get your foot in the door and get something out there that people can see, you may not want to spend that much on making it very long or getting a super professional artist. You'll just want to get something out there to showcase your skills, and that's different. Determining publishing options, it's the same thing. It's the kind of this whole part of pre-production is trying to figure out how big and grand of a scale are you trying to make your project, and what is your ultimate goal? Is it to make a lot of sales? Is it to make a lot of money? Is it to get your name out there? Is it to make a perfect product that is just in itself like almost award-winning kind of thing? These are the kind of things you'll want to figure out, and then you'll want to refine them into essentially your whole vision of what's the finished product that you want, and then you can start production. Okay, once you start production, then this is basically how to start marketing before your comic is finished. So in production, there are steps that you'll need to take that you'll want to prep for whenever your book is finished. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to do that is tangible physical stuff. It's you getting online, it's you going places, it's you calling people, it's you emailing people, and it's putting stuff into files and folders and all this stuff. You'll want to get this stuff ready while you're making the comic because that's when it's easy. Whenever you're taking the files, you're taking the cover, you'll want to know how to organize it, okay? This is things that I'm talking about are writing the log line. And you have to write a log line for not just your whole book, but every issue if you're releasing it as a series. You'll have to write a synopsis for every issue. You'll have to write all the metadata, such as creator bios, the comic age rating, like I was saying, you have to define genre and subgenre. There's a lot of things that whenever you upload your stuff online or send it to other people, they need this information that's going to go into it that people might not see, but that's required in order to upload it onto certain platforms. It's the same thing for movies. It's not just like you upload the movie, you now have to upload the captions and subtitles and all the data about all the cast and crew and everything and the synopsis and all that, so it goes whenever someone clicks on to watch a movie, the stuff comes up when it came out, who directed it, what's it rated. This is the same kind of information that you have to come up with for your comic book. Every creator that's involved. What's the bio for each creator? Where is their social media? All your social media. You have to come up. Then you have to plan out all your covers. So if you already had your creative team just for the interiors, a part of marketing is coming up with covers for each issue from other artists so you can have variant covers. You'll want to determine, based upon your budget, how many you want to have of those. You'll want to determine who do you want the artist to be. Do you want to pay extra to have it a super big-time artist? Or do you want somebody that's very unusual and unique so it just stands out? Or do you want to just plan out, hiring someone that's to do like an homage? Well, now you have to figure out what homage to do. What isn't, oversaturated in the homages or whatever. You have to determine also what's the back cover going to look like. Because once you've done all the covers, somebody has to design all the interior filler pages, such as the credits page, or the back cover, or the side spine. You'll want to figure out what that stuff is going to be, because even if your publisher takes care of that, they're still going to you'll still have input and power over what they choose. And if you already have it figured out, you'll want that at least determined now, before once you're in the throes of a book being done, and that requires so much work. Trying to come up with all this stuff in the end is just a burden whenever you're trying to plan for your launch. Anyway, so then another thing you'll want to figure out is planning out your online marketing content. So in addition, while you're doing it, you'll want to take like crop images of your interiors. You'll want to get headshots of yourself or other bios because you're going to need to create ad material once your book goes live or is about to go live, and you'll need to create social media posts and stuff for the future. So you'll want all that almost like easy and lined up. Even if you don't actually create the individual image content or whatever, you'll want to at least get it like prepped. Start the files. Start figuring out what you want certain things to look like. Just figure out how much you're going to need and what kind of like material you'll want to post when it comes out. Come up with the ideas. Are you going to do something clever and different? Are you going to have kind of a whole campaign that's unusual? This is the kind of stuff you'll want to figure out during production while you're working on the actual the content of it. You'll also need to be thinking about what comes next. Okay, because a lot of times, especially if you're the writer hiring an artist, this is the kind of stuff you can do as the writer that you don't want to take time away from the artist to be dealing with any of this. This is all your baby. They just, do the sequential art. You focus on all the other material. All right, the next part I'm going over, post-production pre-launch. This is how to market your comic after your comic is finished, but before it is published. This is things like reaching out to podcasters, reviewers, calling comic shops, and building up your social media. All right, and this is when you start your campaign. It's basically building up and for what is about to be the launch. And this is where you're building your team. This is where you're figuring out who is going to be involved whenever I finally need to go live that's going to help me hype things on social media. Who also can you help that's like in another comic creator that can is also on the inside that has ins and outs with other people that can also help be a part of your team. This is when you build up your team and you start reaching out to everyone that can be involved in marketing your comic outside of yourself and your team. So they're going to be reaching out. You're going to be reaching out. And like I was saying, this is when you reach out to podcasts and reviewers. And this is also when you call every comic shop that you can. You literally get a list of all the comic shops, especially the ones you want to for sure be in or have any kind of relationship with. You call those people and you try to make sure they're going to pre-order your book. All right? It's true sales. Then on your actual launch, this is how to market on the day your book launches. There's a lot going on here, but this is like the most important day. This is finally when you just give as much momentum as you can, so that on day one you're essentially, if you're self-publishing and Kickstarter, and you want to make sure that you not only like launch strong and get at least 30 to 50% funded right away, you almost want to fund 100%. And this is like, as I'll go in other details and I've seen other videos, a lot of times you'll want to almost set your bar lower to ensure that you can reach the full amount that you state to build more momentum on day one, and then just start building up stretch goals after that to reach your actual goal. But anyway, so this on day one, you'll actually do real physical advertising. This is where you advertise in print ads. This is like local newspapers. You'll want to be advertising on podcasts and YouTube shows. And even if you don't do them all on day one, you will want all this to have been lined up so that at least one of them is on day one. So you basically go live on a podcast, or even if it's just your own YouTube show or something like that. So you're live talking, make it an event. And you'll see I'll go more into this later. But yeah, so on your launch, you'll actually do real advertising. This is like Facebook ads, Google ads, local media ads, okay? Like I said, getting on a podcast and YouTube shows, and you're not always paying with money. You're not always paying for ads with money. You might be trading exposure and time. Like you'll see many creators basically try to trade their time helping someone else out. This is where you ask for back the favors. So in your pre-launch, when you were helping others and working, building your team often means helping out other people. And then they help you on this day, on your launch, okay? You'll start social media posts, all right? And this is when you'll want to post everything you can, all your, all the relevant covers, at least for day one, your best. The launch has to be your best stuff, okay? Issue 1, page 1, cover 1, it has to be like, this is what you're selling people on, so it has to be about as best stuff as you have has to launch right away. Everyone in your friends and family and everyone on your team needs to be involved in your launch day. You need to throw an actual physical launch party. You don't necessarily have to charge people to show up, but exposure is key. This is like, if you can get, physical prints of your book and give them away, you want to make it kind of event, and you can make that event also then allow it to where it's a bigger deal if you get other people to, like local authors, or not authors, but like writers and journalists and stuff, or local papers, to get them to, mention you as like a local event, this party for the launch of a local author or something like that. That sometimes is easier when you actually are like bringing money to local businesses, because you might throw your party at a local bar or something like that. All right, or even just at the library. This is enough to where you can usually make local news with such a thing. You'll want to do book interviews with local comic shops. For signings, in addition to like journalists, there's also radio stations that are often open for interviews, and basically anybody that's involved in the artistic, or arts and writing community, or even just local businesses and things like that. Try to get as much of the local hype as you can, because your team worldwide, if your local team, that they can build enough momentum locally that it can get online, and that can build momentum for a greater pool outside. It's just like your team, your town, your state, all of comics. Anyway, so that is basically the day of launch, okay? And then post-launch, so basically this is how to automate your marketing to continue marketing after all your hype and all your work is over. The whole point of all this is to like front load all your work to everything up to the launch. And then after you launch, you just automate kind of everything to where you're not doing as much anymore, but there's still marketing going on that keeps your books in your series live in the community. So this is like, you'll just post a little thing every time, an issue comes out, you post on social media, okay? Every issue should have its own hype, but you already have all the content created. You can almost just set it for, on a schedule to post whenever you don't have to do it on your own. You can literally automate posts on social media. Cross collaboration, this is basically when you partner with another independent creator or any kind of creator with their book launch, and in return, like, they'll hype your book. So in addition, like I was saying before, like you're helping other creators with their stuff so that they hype you on your launch, you continue doing that, okay? And now you start hyping other creators, and in the process, they'll often, then they can, and if they're doing other books, whenever they hype their own stuff, they'll include your book at the same time. And this is like what I was saying, where I'll go into more detail in my own kind of nonfiction ebook about all this stuff, is that when you're doing this stuff all around the whole way, you're essentially using other people. You're always cross-collaborating. You don't want to toot your own horn all the time, where you're just posting, this is my new thing, next day. You'll know I do this too much. But in the same time as you hyping your own thing, you're also hyping other people that are also, you're making sure that, like, whenever your book launches, a bunch of other independent books launch at the same time. And most people, when they take pictures, they take all the books that they got. You're now involved in all of their hype too. You can then, that gives you a chance to be in and sort of like become closer to those other creators if you're now basically I'm not sure what you call that relationship, but it's basically like you have the same readers, so the same audience, so like their fans also like your book, your fans also like their book. You now sort of have a connection there. Every little thing to connect stronger with everybody, you should try to take advantage of. All right. You'll also want to make a trailer. And this is like, these can be difficult, and these aren't necessary for pre-launch, but they are great to where post-launch, if you can create a trailer, it can be another reason to like build momentum again, because the trailer itself is almost like an event. Like, hey, I got this thing. Like, you try to get the second wave of people that haven't read your book. So like, especially with comic books, your book releases as issues, issue by issue, and then it releases a trade. If you can post a trailer to then hype your trade, that's almost like a whole new form of momentum for the second wave of like your book. So now it's like you had all your social media stuff and all your other ways of marketing, your physical ads and in the newspapers and stuff, and you're on the radio and you're on podcasts and stuff. Now you launch a trailer and you make it like the biggest deal ever. Like, now the trade is out, and that's where you take all your quotes from all other people like other creators that like it, and you can post their quotes in there, and you can and all that kind of stuff. And then, like I was saying, you just automate social media posts, and you maybe throw like one final launch party for the trade paperback, okay? And then you're essentially done with the marketing of the book and all the issues that are involved in it. And now it's just automated social media posts to keep it hyped. And then your next job, and I'll make a totally different video on this, and that is what to do like basically to build it, to keep the hype going, to where it's like, do I want to get into other media? Do I want to create another book? And most of the time, if all this stuff is done right, you should have known early in advance with pre-order sales whether or not you had enough to continue a series to make it ongoing, or if you have enough momentum to like really build it into a whole entertainment empire, as I talk about. And it's not just a book that goes on shelves, a few people read, and it's done. Like, it actually becomes an ongoing series, or it turns into you get optioned or actually go into production to become a film. You start hiring people to animate it as a little movie or whatever. Now it's time to start thinking about what comes next. But like I said, so all this stuff I'm going to go into super detail. There's a lot of stuff I left out because the nitty gritty is boring. But that's what the book's going to have. And I'm working on it. Obviously I'll hype it whenever I go live with it. And like I was saying, if anybody is interested in any of this stuff and they know specifically, can you talk about blah, 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 let me know in the comments and I'll add it in there. I might not make a video, but I'll at least cover that in the... And if anybody wants to read anything that I've done, if you want to know, like, well, what have you done? Like, how good are you? Like, what makes me think, you can see I've had bestsellers out there. I've been critically acclaimed. I have other creator friends that are well known, I guess you could say. I have some credibility to my name, and it's all at hoveandcrow.com. Thanks, everybody.